mercy. Mercy, mercy. I'm not quite ready to go yet. Good morning. I'm trying to be ready to go. What would probably help is if I actually had my microphone on. That would be helpful, right? I'm sure it would be. So pardon me while I kind of get things situated here. Um, so Facebook, Facebook, why? I don't know why Facebook always just has to mess with things. Just when I get a routine down and I've got things working, Facebook has to change stuff and it drives me insane. Because right now it says I'm broadcasting to Facebook, but I can't see my Facebook feed anywhere. I can't see the live feed for my Facebook, and I'm not sure what the deal is. It's like news feed, manage shop. I don't know. They keep changing stuff. Oh, you're a business, and let's run this like a business. It's like I just want to have a place where people can go and do. I don't want to stop it. It's so crazy. All I want to do is see my live feed in here, which I normally do, and it's not a big deal. But for whatever reason, they change it to this whole like business suite and like going live. They changed the entire setup for going live. So I had to change that and get that all situated. There's supposed to be a persistent key, but every time I come in, I have to download the key and do a new key. There's a message here. Notice I was wearing a Virginia Tech hat in my workbench building series. Go Hokies out of Fredericksburg. Looking forward to following along. Process of making a Rubo. Nice. Rubo benches are really cool. I have a whole series on my Rubo bench. I mean, it's not a true 100% Rubo style bench. It's a Rubo inspired bench is what I've got here, and so it's not 100% spec to what a Rubo would be. The Rubo benches were woodworkers from 18th century, I want to say, maybe, in France that used a certain style of bench and a lot of dog hole hold downs and things like that. But mine's inspired by the Rubo design, so there's a lot of people out there who've made Rubo benches, and I kind of did a conglomerate of a bunch of different styles and design features and put that into my bench. My bench, you can't see it right now, but it's an awesome bench and it is super, super sturdy. It's made out of southern yellow pine, which is not your regular box store pine wood that you get in 2x4s and things like that. This stuff it's rock hard. It is a beast of a table. I don't know, it probably weighs 300 pounds. I've got a lot of different little features in here, like this like raised section in the middle right here that allows you to use it as a planing stop or be flush. Plus it has slots so you can slide your tools in and keep them handy and stuff like that. So if you want to see the entire build series for my Rubo bench, I did it all in video. It's on my YouTube channel, jeffrevell.com, if you're not watching at jeffrevell.com. Because this came in on Facebook. I'm going to respond to him and let him know. Video series for my bench. If you need any inspiration while creating yours. There you go. Not the fastest typer in the world. And then I'll give them the address, www.youtube.com/JeffRevell. There we go. And there we go. But anyway, getting back to what I had here, I don't even know when that comment came in. This is the weird thing. I get comments. It's so bizarre the way Facebook does things. And I don't know if you're a Facebook person or not, but dealing with Facebook can be really frustrating. And also because they try to integrate all of the little products like, oh, well, here's Instagram. That's a Facebook product. So, well, here's all your Instagram comments and here's other Facebook comments. And it's like, it's super hard to interact with people sometimes because they keep wanting to do this whole business suite. Because anytime you have a page, instead of like your personal Facebook, page, anytime you create an additional page, they just assume it's for a business. And I have two pages. One is for my business. It's for my it's for all of my bases and sewing machine stuff that I make and things like that. And so that is a business page. But the JR's Woodshop page is not a business page. I'm not selling things there or trying to get clients or anything else. It's just where I share my woodworking stuff. And I didn't want that on my personal page because a lot of people who follow my personal page follow me because I was a photographer and everything else. And so I have like, I don't know, thousands of people who follow that page, but they could care less about woodworking. Woodworking is more of a recent thing in my life. So I was like, I don't want to bore them with it, so I'm just going to make a Facebook page for my woodworking. But they treat it like some crazy, like, oh, it's a business page and you need to do all this business stuff and let us help you form your business page. But every time they do that, now I can't see any of my stuff here. Like I should be able to see my go live stuff, live. Why can't I see my live page? Go live. Should be live right now. And I should see the live feed. But anyway, it's frustrating. And now I can't see the live feed. So I'm going to go back to, hang on just a second. Let me kill this one. Let me just go back to Facebook. Let me check my settings in here because I am broadcasting. But, oh, goodness gracious. Hang on. Let me check in here. And like I said, they changed so many things on their software that, there we go. They created this, like you have to go through and set everything up, and then you have to go live in the OBS software, and then you have to go live and everything else. I just wish they would stop monkeying with things. Because every time I get this set up for Facebook, Facebook changes something. Yes, I would like to leave, discard and exit. There we go. I just want to go to my Facebook page. There we go. All right. I think I've got this settled down now. Sorry about the late start today, but where are you? Still can't see my live feed. This is so crazy. Show me live feed. And the only reason I do this is because I get people who pop in and I want to be able to interact with you all. If you leave comments, questions, posers, queries, there it is. Good grief. Show me live feed. Okay, I don't want to hear it. There we go. All right. Now I've got it going. Maybe. It's so slow. So slow. There is something I can do. Let me go over my computer. I do. Oh my gosh. Why does it do these things to me? All right. I'm going to go into my computer and I've got to turn something off for the moment. And go back here. Okay. Well, I'm certainly getting a late start today, so I apologize. All right, hush, hush, shh. There we go. Okay, now I can set everything up so I can see all my windows and make life good. All right, there's that one. And let me get to the YouTube one and set it up. And then we can move forward. And the reason I do it this way is that, like I said, I get comments in. I try to monitor the comments as best I can. Not always successful in monitoring comments because I get busy doing things. But, I need more coffee. That's definitely, I think, where the shortfall is here, is that I need more coffee internal to get the fires burning and get things heated up. And because I usually have my 2 cups by now and I'm still working on the second cup. So I had some stuff that I was working on this morning, not in the shop, but just personal type things. So, but we did need coffee. Coffee makes everything better. All right, I've got everything set up over here. I think everything's working. I've got windows up. So if you do want to throw a comment out there, please do. Like I said, on YouTube, I actually have some videos that I've made, instructional type things or whatever. The workbench was just basically started from milling up the wood to cutting all the joinery to assembly to making dog holes and all that good stuff. This was probably my most ambitious project to date. There's a lot of features to this table that, like I made keystone leg inserts here, and I've done mortise and tenon and draw tenons, and there's just so many different things on this table that are just really cool that I just really enjoyed doing. The basis of the table itself, I had to work with, well, first of all, I planed Southern Yellow Pine, all of these boards on my my old planer, which was not the best planer in the world, but I did get it done. And then I couldn't make these, so that's why this table is actually in two different sections. They're about 12-inch wide sections, and I think, how thick is this anyway? This is, let's see how thick this table is here. I never know, it's like 3 inches thick, I think, something like that. So 3.5 inches thick. So basically these are boards that are turned upright, and that makes them kind of like, they're more stable when they're glued together that way. So instead of gluing them edge to edge, they're glued side to side. So very stable across these panels. And then I hand flattened them with I had a jointing plane that I used and hand planed these down to flatness. And they ran them through my planer, and that's why they're 12-inch wide sections, because my planer was 12 inches. So I ran these through the planer so that I could get them skimmed down to flat and kind of square when I was putting this thing together. But anyway, it was a very ambitious project. I chronicled the whole thing on my YouTube channel. So if you go to Jeff Revell, Jeffrevell, on YouTube, just search for that. You'll find my channel. You'll see there's actually a playlist for the Rubo bench. And when you go in there and you start to type in the comments yelling at me about using a riving knife on my table saw, you don't have to do that. I already know. I screwed it up. I didn't really screw up, but I understand where all the sentiment and all the concern is from people who watch and start typing, "You don't have a riving knife." So when I was doing these boards, I was getting a lot of tension release as I was pushing through the saw. The board would open, and there would be a kerf opening right from the blade, but then it would squeeze together. And these boards were squeezing because there's so much tension being released when that saw is cutting through that wood. It was releasing all that tension. That tension, sometimes the tension goes out, sometimes it goes in, and this tension was going in, and it was squeezing the boards right onto the saw blade, which in turn was shutting down my saw. Now, that's a dangerous thing to do. That's why you use a riving knife, to keep the boards from squeezing your blade, because that can cause kickback where the board would fly up at your face because the blade would lift it and throw it back at you. These boards weighed about 30 pounds a piece, and that kickback, it just shut the saw down. It wasn't going to throw that back in my face. It was too heavy. My saw is not beefy enough. If this was a cabinet saw that I was using, yeah, with a 220 volt motor and 5 horsepower, it could have easily picked those boards up and thrown them at me. But because it's a wimpy little 115 volt, I think 1.5 horsepower. I mean, I love my saw, but it's underpowered in terms of table saws, or the full gamut of table saws anyway. So it wasn't going to pick up these massive heavy boards and throw them back at me, but it was pinching it down so much that it would pop the fuse and shut the saw down. My way of going through that was I actually cut wedges. So as I was going through the boards, I would actually drive a wedge into between them where the boards were. So the board was coming out, I'd drive a wedge in there and then keep feeding it through, and that wedge would keep the boards separated enough to pass through the saw. It's sketchy. I'm not gonna lie. I would never advise anybody to do what I did, although I have seen other people do it that way. It's sketchy to do it that way. Like I said, do as I say, not as I do. But anyway, you don't have to alert me to that if you go and watch the series. I already know. Very sketchy. Shouldn't do that. My riving knife is in my machine, and it has not left since then. So it always stays in there. I always have the riving knife in there. But when I was doing that, didn't have the riving knife in. Okay, but that's the Rubo bench. So if you want to see that, like I said, go to the YouTube channel. There's a whole playlist that is dedicated just to creating this Rubo bench, which really needs to be flattened. It's been a long time. My bench is not 100% flat now, which it happens over time. And that's the thing about a bench. A workbench is over time, if you use it as a reference for flatness, you really should over time check your flatness and then go through and reflatten it. And if you want to figure that out, go to the Wood Whisperer website, the YouTube page, and Mark Spagnola has a great video on flattening a workbench, because he made a Rubo style bench and then flattened it, and you use a sled, a flattening sled, like you would with a slab of wood, but you set up a flattening sled, and he shows how to actually go and set up your boards on each side to achieve the perfect plane for running your router across and getting it flat. So he's got a really great series on that. I'm not going to reinvent that one. He did it really well. He does everything really well. That's, you know, it's the Wood Whisperer. Actually, I was just watching a video of his about making breadboard ends before I came out here. So love watching Mark Spagnuolo. He does good stuff, and highly recommend, if you don't know who he is or haven't watched it, you need to watch the Wood Whisperer, because, well, he is, stop it, phone. He is like the gold standard for woodworkers. He's like this generation's Norm Abrams or something like that. So Norm Abrams. Anyway, kind of all over the place this morning. See, this is what happens when I don't have coffee. But let's get into things. If you were not here on Monday, you missed the new tool. Got this right at the end. So at the very end of Monday's episode, this arrived on my front doorstep, and this is a Bosch GET 75-6. If you're in the UK or EU or Australia or somewhere where everybody else in the world uses metric, I think it's the GET 75-150 or 155. Basically, instead of 6 inches, they use millimeters. So I think it's like 155 or something like that. But basically it's a 6-inch sander, but it's an oscillating sander, but it's also a gear-driven sander. And the gear drive is just like, it's basically, this is the Bosch version of what most people are familiar with is the Festool Rotex. Well, Festool actually made theirs to compete with this. So Festool was not first to market with that Rotex sander. Bosch actually was first to market with theirs, and a previous version of this one. But this thing is a beast. I love this. It's variable speed. I haven't even used it in the Rotex mode, because it's just, it chews through wood. It is so great. But I am thrilled with this thing because I was not so thrilled with the oscillating sanders I had before. They're okay as a finishing sander, but man, I needed something to do some sanding with, and this thing is a beast. So I just used it for a little bit, and I already love it. It's amazing. So super happy with that. Let's see what else. Oh, so when I came back on Monday from being on vacation, I still had a whole bunch of these lids that needed to be completed. And so that's what we were working on Monday, was getting these things done. And I did get them all finished. And what I ended up doing was I cut them all down. And most of these, I think I have what do I got? One, two, three, four, five, six. Is it six of them? 2, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 of them that have lids. And then there's one stubby one that which is just a box that doesn't have a lid. But all of these have lids, and the lids needed to be cut. They needed to be flattened, flushed down to the surface. And then the other thing I did off camera after finishing them all was to put a finger hole in here in the top, so you can see this little groove right here. And all that does is allow for easy removal of the lid when it's actually in place. So you can see right here, if it didn't have that, it's really hard to get you'd have to use your thumbnail or something to get in there. But by putting that little finger lid in there, it's just really easy to lift that out. So I put that's kind of like a signature little thing on mine. I've tried using like little handles and stuff, but they kind of ruin the aesthetic of having this thing nice and flat. So most of mine now use that finger hole. Here's another one right here. So you can see little finger hole. Makes it really easy to get the lid out. Pops right back in, nice and flush. And just is a really nice aesthetic to these bases. And so all of that's done. So really we're kind of into the last step of making these things a usable base, with the exception of finishing. Finishing's a whole nother thing. But we've got one more step to do in terms of construction, I'll put it that way. And that is to put corner braces in for holding up the sewing machine. Because right now, if you set the machine in here, it's just gonna go all the way down and set inside onto the floor of the base there. And that's not functional, it doesn't work. Let me get this out of the way. And I'm gonna bring one of these bases over here, and let me get this out of the way for the moment. And then I'll show you what I'm talking about, and then we have to figure out some critical measurements for doing this. Let me go get a corner piece. Now I've cut all of my triangular pieces already because I had the wood and I wanted to go ahead and get that done. So these were cut a while ago, but these are triangular. Use my little black shirt here, it's easy to see. So triangular pieces, let's see if you can see it there. So you can see how these are little triangles. And I've got some long pieces. So this piece right here is about 24 inches long. This will be more than enough to do 2 bases because I need about 12 inches, actually a little less than 12 inches of material to make these. Each one is about 2.5 inches rough, usually less than 2.5 inches. But if I figure 2.5 inches on par for each one, well, that gives me 10 inches plus kerfs plus some extra. So I just figure 12 inches per machine gives me extra material to work with and enough to make all 4 corners. Coffee good. So let me show you what we're talking about. I have my little test machine down here, and I'll pull this base. Actually, you know what? Let me get just the regular. This one makes it a little easier. So this one doesn't have the side compartment on there, but it is exactly the same spec as all the other ones. And see how that's my table. That's not the base. But anyway, if I pull out this machine here, which is very dusty, and this is what is going to be setting inside here. Now, right now, it's perfectly dimensioned to sit in here. Actually, a little, so it sits inside, but the problem is it's not supposed to sit inside. It's supposed to, excuse me, hang on, got it wedged in there. It's supposed to sit in a fashion that lets it be right near the top And so we have to figure out how much area underneath needs this, how tall do these need to be to leave this sitting on top? But there's another issue to this. If you look, I think I can show it here. So if you look here, you'll see there's a plate here, and this plate is a slide plate. That plate needs to be able to slide forward because that's where you go under here and you change the bobbins or whatever. Some machines have a plate that slide this way. Some have their what they call VS machines or vertical shuttles, which they have plates that run across the face. But they all work the same way where they slide out of the way. So if I take this and make this flush, if I take this surface and make it flush with the edges of the base, well, you won't be able to, you can't get that open now. So it has to be high enough to get up top, but low enough to be set securely in the base. So that's that's where we're at with that, I got to figure out, okay, how thick is this material? But then how much do I need to subtract off of that to allow for this? And then that has to factor into how deep the floor is on the machine. So I usually end up taking a couple of measurements and try to figure this out so that I can get those to just the right depth. Because if you, like I said, if I go too tall, well then the machine sits too high and it's not really sitting in the frame, it's sitting above the frame. So I want it sitting inside basically this framed edge here, but I don't want it sitting so low inside that I can't move that slide plate. That slide plate is critical for using the machine if the machine's going to get used. A lot of people use these with hand cranks, so they actually sew with them in the bases. Some people just display them, but some people actually do sew with them. So I want to leave that functionality in so that they can still sew with the bases if need be. So we need to figure how deep these corner pieces need to be, how tall they need to be in order to support the machine but still allow for that slide plate to come out. Now, this is also kind of, this is a problem with machines from this era because these are cast iron, basically. Casting is not a precise, was not a precise process that allowed for super repeatable, accurate numbers in terms of like thicknesses and such. I mean, they're pretty good in some places, but some stuff, I've addressed this before, you can take measurements off of these corners and get different measurements off of all of these corners. So it's hard to be really accurate. So if I come in here and I measure this, turn this on. So if I measure this corner right here, that's 0.297. If I measure this corner, 0.279. If I measure the corner down here, that's 0.2975. So these two corners are fine, but over here, these corners, not necessarily the same. Let me try this one. That's 0.26. So you can see that there's not consistency all the way around because this is basically just a big cast iron plate right here. Or steel or whatever I think they're cast iron. Anyway, they're not 100% accurate. Also because there's the process they use to coat these things is called Japanning. And so you sometimes get different thicknesses from the Japanning. Now, the way a lot of the manufacturers would deal with this is they would put their corners in and then they would put leather pads on top of the corners. So they would cut the little triangular pieces and then put a piece of leather on top of it. And then that allowed over time to sink in and create padding and whatnot. I don't do that. People can put their own little like felt feet under here. I just try to come up with something that allows me to have a uniform depth on here that still allows access to this slide plate action right here. So what I'm going to do is finish my coffee, and then I'm going to measure the thickness. I need to put a new battery. I wonder if I got another battery. My gauge is blinking at me. Hang on just one second. I apologize for walking in front of you, but the case is in here, and I think I have an extra battery inside of it. I need to probably order more batteries, but my calipers are blinking at me, which lets me know that the battery is probably low and needs to be replaced. I do have one extra battery in here, so I'm going to replace that. All right, stop blinking at me. But anyway, I'm going to measure the depth of my, oh shoot. Well, you know, the hazards of live video. I'm going to measure the depth of these bases and find out, first of all, how deep, and they're all going to be slightly different. So each one of these kind of needs to be custom made. I can't just cut all of them to the same length because these are not all the same depth. They vary slightly because they're all kind of custom made here. Hang on, let me get this in here. These go in, stop. There we go. And let me put this back in, maybe. It's all covered in dust now. I think it went this way. I can't remember which way it went. I think it goes this way. Anyway, so I'm gonna measure all these. There we go. Lovely. I want inches, 0. And that's why I like using this caliper right here, is because it has, as I slide it down, you'll notice there's this little metal piece right here that slides out. And that gives me an accurate measurement for depth. So I can put that on the edge here. Don't need this. I can put this on the edge and then slide this down. And then it tells me exactly how deep that is, like 0.26075. And I need to figure out, okay, so 0.26065, and I'm just going to check all the corners to see, that's 0.256. So I'm trying to find out what's my shortest corner here, because 0.257, 0.257. So 0.257 seems to be, yeah, so this is my deepest corner over here. These seem to be my shortest ones. So I'm going to take the tallest one, which is at 0.2625, okay? I'm actually going to lock that in. So 0.2625, now I need to subtract from there, because remember, that's the distance from the edge all the way to the floor of this base. So now I need to subtract the thickness of this minus the thickness of the slide plate. So the thickness, my thickest part of this, I think, so hang on a second. Let me get my pencil here. I'm gonna write stuff down because I need to. So we had 0.26220, 2.622. Okay. So that's my tallest part. And I'm going to go for the tallest one first, because remember, if I go too short, I can't add wood to it. So I can always make them shorter. I can't make them longer. So I go for the long one first. I'll cut them down and then I will measure from there. So for here, now, I think we had, what was my measurement here is 0.301. And I'm just checking these, just trying to get a ballpark. 0.30, just trying to get a ballpark. 0.27, look at that. There is 0.03 of an inch difference between this thickness and this thickness. But I'm going to go with the small one on here. So 0.27. So I need to subtract, if I subtract 0.27, that makes this flush. I need to add back in the thickness here. 0.27, but I need at least 0.084. Gets complicated. Let me get my calculator because, you know, math. So I had 0.27, and I'm going to subtract out minus I'm going to say 0.09 equals 0.18. So I want to subtract 0.18 off of my 2.622. So let's go 2.622 minus 0.18 equals 2.442. So 2.442 inches is how long I want this to be as a test run for my first corner. So what did I say? Stop it. Really? 2.442. So let's see here. 2.442. 442. Right there. Oh, almost got it. Stop it. Well, that's like 10,000ths of a place, so I'm pretty good there. There we go. 2.442. So that's my distance that I need to cut to create just enough clearance so that the base sits inside but does not sit too deep that I can't remove the thing. That's what I've come up with. Is that good enough? I don't know. We're going to take one of these. I have, I think I have 2 of these. Let me see here. Hang on a second. I think for this particular species of wood, do I have an extra one of these? I do. So I actually have 2 of these. I only need 1 section to do both bases. I have 2 hickory bases. This is hickory. I have 2 of these cut. So if I mess one up and to get the things wrong, I'm still good because I can take this over and make a new one. Now, one thing on here that is kind of goofy is that my corners look good, but notice how I've got all this chatter, not chatter, but burn. So this whole area right here, you can see all this black mark in here. This is all burn from running across the table saw, the way this was cut. And one thing I can do is run this through the jointer to clean this face off. I could sand this, but that would take a long time to sand off all of those marks. So what I might do is actually try to put this flat on the jointer, run it through. That's not going to mess up my measurement because what I care about is this squareness right here. This angle is already cut to be 90 degrees, which should fit squarely into the corners. So if the faces are not perfect, that's okay, but I would like a clean face. So I want a clean face right here. So I think what I'm going to do is run this. Well, can you see me over there? So I'm going to come over here and try to run this through my jointer. And I'm going to make a really light cut on this so that it's just skimming that. There we go. I'm just going to skim the top of it. I'm going to use my pads here to, if I can find my other one, there it is, to run this across and see if I can't get a little bit more clean surface on this thing. What time is it here? 11:40. So let me get my ears here and see if I can clean this up because it's going to make it look a lot nicer sitting in a machine than with those burn marks and then me trying to sand them forever. Okay. That's pretty good. We got the majority of that out of there. And the other thing is, and there's a tiny bit here, but this wood is figured actually. So it's kind of cool looking. So it has all this like tiger striping figure in here, which I didn't notice until after I had purchased it and milled it that it had that feature to it. So, but anyway, so this, I just kind of hit it with a little sandpaper really quickly. This will allow me to just place these in there and have nice clean surfaces so when they get stained and stuff, and there's still plenty of thickness on here that I'm not worried about it not being large enough to support the sewing machines. All right, give me just 1 second. I have to run inside real quick and do something. I will be right back and we'll get on to measuring and cutting these. And I went to go make sure my son was up, but of course I forgot that it's his day off. So he wasn't real happy about being bothered, but too bad. All right, so 2.442 is what we're looking at for making some cuts here. What I'm gonna do is go over to the saw and clean up one corner here. Just make sure that it's square. It helps to have square corners when you're making cuts on the miter saw. So I'm going to clean up one edge, then we'll measure our 2.442 inches, cut one, see what it looks like in here, do like a little corner test fit with it. And then if it seems like it's okay, we'll cut additionals and see if we can get all four. And then we'll check fitting again. Some of them might need to be lowered or raised. Like I said, the problem with this, I try to get them square using my test machine, but all machines are slightly different. So I try to get it close. All right, let me go over here and clean this up. I've got to set up a couple of things. Since I'm going to be using the saw over here, is I want to make sure that I have my dust collection on. It doesn't do a great job, but it's better than not having any hooked up at all. And I need my ears. I am going to need some power here. So let me get the power cord, plug the saw in, and then we can make a square cut on the end. Where did I put my ears? Over here. So we'll make a square cut on the end over here, and then we will do some measuring. And I think I have, there we go. So you can see over here, I'm just going to pick one corner just to clean off. And this sits nice and square against the fence right here. I'm just going to put this just ever so into the path just to make sure it's square. We'll cut one of these off. I need to get my remote. And then we'll do the measurement and get the actual length that we need. All right, so this is now square to the face and to the back edge. So we've got this nicely done here. I'm just gonna clean up the little overcut here. Do need a new blade at some point in time. Okay, so 2.442 inches. I think I have that marked on here already. And I'm just going to take this and put it right on the edge here. I'm going to get my pencil and I'm just going to mark this in here. By the way, you don't need to spend a ton of money on a caliper, but I would suggest getting one if you don't have one. A digital caliper that you can go from millimeters to fractions to decimal inches. Such a useful tool in a woodworking shop. You don't need it in construction, but for woodworking, when you need to be precise and you're going to go hundreds, thousands, 10,000ths of an inch, that's pretty helpful tool. So I'm going to just check that again. And this thing is like $12, $15. I got this at Harbor Freight. It's their Pittsburgh brand, but it's super reliable. It's made out of metal. It has the little tail for depth and things like that. It's like I said, can't go wrong for like 12 bucks. That's a lot of accuracy right there. All right, so I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to measure this out and try to get this very much on that pencil line. All right, and this is square here. I'm going to do, I don't normally do this, but I want this to be square against here. So hang on a second. So if I take this up here, need to hold that flush against there. Okay, let's do one cut here and see what we got. Right here, I know I didn't change my camera angle, sorry about that. Anyway, here is one small corner. You can see they're not very big. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of clean off the little saw mark bits and pieces off of here. And this fits into the corner over here. So let's get this situated. And this will fit. Now the other thing is when I'm fitting these things, you got to make sure all of the sawdust is out of the corners because you don't want anything getting underneath here that'll kind of not be an accurate measurement. So that sits in the corner like this. You can see it sitting in here. It's right here. And we're going to take this machine and we're going to stick it in. I do it just like this. Now it's not going to be, I've only got one, but it gives me a pretty good idea. Turn it around this way on this end. I'll show you. So if this sits inside here, and it'll sit like that, and it should give me enough clearance. So I'm going to cut another one so that I can check this front. And I'm going to cut it the exact same size as this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as basically a template for measuring my next one. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to slide this forward. And I'm going to use this block that we just cut and I'm going to match up the edge. So I'm basically putting it on the edge of this board right here. I'm going to take this edge and use my finger to line those up so that they are the exact same. And your finger is so super accurate when doing things like this. Now I'm going to slide this. I'm going to bring the blade down and slide it in until it touches the teeth. Now I know that it should cut the exact same size. So I'm just going to pinch it over here and hold it. And we'll cut one more. All right, so I should have two now that are exactly the same height. So you can see it looks like a square. I mean, They feel like they are exactly the same height. And that's why I use one, the first one I cut, I use that as a measurement because that's going to give me even more accuracy than trying to use a pencil or something like that. Now let's bring it back over here and let's check it in the machine again. So now I've got two. I'm going to put one, let me clean off the fuzz because that can throw it off just a little bit. So clean off the fuzz, put that in the corner, put this one in the corner. All right, so now I have two corner pieces here. So if nothing else, I'll know that the front of this machine right here is sitting like this. So even if this is not right, this should give me, look at that. So just slides past there. Could actually be a little deeper, but that's not bad. I actually kind of like that. So I'm going to cut two more. I'm going to use the same one as a measurement. I'm going to cut two more. And this would be, typically this would be the front of the machine right here. This is traditionally the back, so the wheel hangs over the compartment. That's traditionally the way it goes. You can have it so that the front is here, and this gives, if you're sewing, it gives you more table surface to work with your fabric. But traditionally, the lid, the little storage compartment is at the back of the machine. So let me cut two more, and then we will use these to check all fitting on here. Now, the fun thing is, once I get these cut, I can kind of use these to test how thick the other machines need to be. I can use these as, you know, kind of a benchmark and say, well, they fit this machine. Let's see how far off this other machine is. And if they fit, then I can just keep making them the same size. So let's get this measured up here. Okay. All right. Okay, I've got my, now four, right? So I have four of these now. And I'm just going to clean up the fuzzies off of them. And then we will check these in the other corners. And then that will give us an idea as to whether I need to cut any longer ones for this particular base. Or if it's going to be nice and square sitting inside here. All right, let's find out. Take this and do a test fit. Rest it there, rest it there. Ooh, that looks nice. That looks really super nice. Okay, so hopefully you'll see that we've got a good fit. It's not flush, right? It can't be, because otherwise we won't get this plate out. I could go a tad bit shorter here. I've got a little bit of space, but it's only like a millimeter underneath here. And like I said, the thing is, none of these are all the same. So I'd rather have it be a little bit too high, but still it fits in here snugly. So you'll see that they're not glued in, but you can see that this thing can't slide out of the base. It's now resting beneath the edge of here. So it sets inside. I've got good spacing on this actually, all the way around. So that looks fantastic. This in essence is what this looks like when it's done. Super nice, clean. That looks great. You see you've got the little surface here. That looks fantastic. So we've got this one set up, and I know now that that particular measurement for this particular machine in this particular base, perfect. But what about the next base, right? So that's where we're going to take the 4 that I just cut. I'm going to check it in the next base. They may not be the right measurement. I might need to do a whole new measurement thing here. But if they're the same, that means I can just basically go over there and cut 4 more identical ones, and that makes my life a lot easier. So I'm going to take this base right here. Excuse me. This is a hickory base. So I'm going to use the same wood for making these corners. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the corners out of here, and I'm going to put them in here. They're all the same, so it doesn't matter which corners they go to. Okay, spiders, it's time to leave. I know, but it's like getting to be winter. You should go find your winter home now. Now this actually looks a lot lower. I'm going to have to cut longer ones. I can already tell this does not give me enough ground clearance. Remember, I needed like that 0.08 whatever. This is not, I can tell right now that if I zero this out, this is 0.245. So this is almost a 1/4 of an inch deep right here. I know that's too deep. So watch this. I'm going to set this inside. It's almost flush now with the edge here. So look, see this? I can't get that out. So now I know that I can't use that same measurement for this base. I need taller ones for this particular base, which is a shame, but that's okay. I mean, at least, you know, it just gives me a quick way of finding it out. So what I could do is find out quickly. I can measure how deep this base was over here, and then check the other ones and see if any of them are the same measurement from a depth standpoint. If they are, then they could probably all use, so 2.6 I think was my longest measurement. So this one's much shorter. That's 2.8, that's much deeper. And this is what I'm saying is I check these and they probably all are going to need to be, that's 2.8. This one, 2.8. So these all seem like they're much deeper and will require 2.7. Yeah, unfortunately, that's pretty much what we got to work with. So I'm going to keep these with this particular base right now, and I can't use them for any other base. But let's see what the depth is on this one. So our depth here is 2.6795. Okay, I have my drawing over here. So if I say 2.6795 minus the 0.18, because that's the thickness we needed to subtract to allow this, the front of this base to fit in there. So 2.4995 is what I should need. Now, let me check these all around. 2.6595, 6575, 0.67, 679. So I'm looking for my tallest measurement because that will kind of be what I use. 2.68. So 2.68 appears to be my, let me try this again with 2.68. 0.68 minus the 0.18. So 2.5 inches, I think 2.5 inches is what we're looking at. So I'm going to cut one at 2.5. So let's go back and let me grab my piece of wood here. And we're going to say 2.5 inches. I know this is already square. I don't have to recut this on the saw because it's already been squared up from the previous cuts. So we're going to go 2.5 on the caliper here. So basically just 2.5 inches. And let me get that dialed in here. Not easy. There we go. 2.5. And I'm going to lock it in. Well, I just changed it. Dang it. 10 hundredth. There we go. Stop it. 10 hundred thousandths, 10 thousandths. I'm off by like 5 10,000ths. Stop it. Oh my God, this is so difficult. Anyway, close enough. There we go. So I'll show you. So you can see I'm at, hopefully you can see that, 2.5. And I'm going to take this and put it flat on here. And we are going to draw that line on here. So 2.5 inches. And then we will go make one cut, check it, and then we should be able to get all 4. If it all works out well, this is still, should be a foot long here. Yeah, this is 14 inches. So we've got plenty to get 4 out of here. This should be pretty accurate too. So let's give this a try over at the saw here. We're going to come back in, put this in here and cut right to that pencil line. Because remember, the pencil line's actually outside the measurement just a hair. Or actually, it was inside. So I'm going to cut right to the outside edge of that pencil line. Right there. Okay. Let's make one. All right, there's one cut, and we're gonna just come over here and check it really quickly. Let me just clean the fuzzies off of here from the saw. Put this in and check it. That looks much better. And I can actually check this with my thing here. I should have about 0.1. This is 0.14. Now remember, each of these corners is a little different. If I take this over here, let's see what I get here. 0.173. So, I did that 0.18, so 0.173. But that's okay. So I think we're going to be good here. I'm going to go and make another one of these, and we'll check the front to make sure that we've got ample clearance. And then from there, I think we can, if we get that, we'll go ahead and cut the others. Get that taken care of. So once again, just using my finger on this edge over here to really just feel when those 2 pieces of wood are perfectly matched up and aligned. Then I'll push it out right there. Now I'm just going to slide it into the teeth so that I know exactly where that cut needs to happen. Clamp it in place with my thumb. My thumb is not in the way of that blade, by the way. I'm a good 1.5 inches away and I'm squeezing, so I'm not going to cut my thumb. So fear not. I get people saying all the time, but trust me, I'm not going to cut my thumb. And I always lower it down and stop it while it's below the blade guard here. And I don't lift it until that blade has stopped. And so I keep my hand in place. And that's usually, I won't say usually, it's always very safe. I'm not sliding my hands around or anything. I hold everything in very good space. And it's further away than it looks on camera. So don't be afraid for me. I appreciate it. All right. Putting these in place. Now they don't stay perfect. Sometimes they're a little wobbly in there, but that's okay. They'll get glued in and then they'll be fine. I'm just gonna check this really quickly because I'm checking for slide space, and we've got that in spades here. So that's in good shape. And now we will cut lots of these. So I'm gonna go, well, lots of them. I'm gonna cut 2 more. And then we will be done with those. The other thing is make sure your fence is clear of dust and sawdust and stuff so that you're getting this flush against the fence here. Because if you don't, it's going to screw up your squareness of your cuts. So I always try to kind of blow the dust out of there a little bit. Perfect. All right, so you can see we've got like 1 extra piece. So if I need to cut an extra one, I've got an extra piece right there. But we're gonna come back over here and I'm gonna clean the fuzzies off of these things, and then we will just check them with the machine. This is why it's nice to have a test machine that I can just use as a reference. But like I said, there are multiple machines at my disposal to test with. None of them are the same. They're all slightly different, which is why I always include a set of felt feet with my stuff. So they can either use the felt feet here, they can put the felt feet under the corners, whatever they want. But I always give them 4 felt feet with every machine that I sell, or every base that I sell, because I'm just a nice guy. All right. So I'm checking these for squareness in here. Pretty good. No tipping inside the base. I've got good movement right there. So there is another one done. How many we got here? 1210. We're in good shape. So that's what we're looking at. Now I can use this measurement now to see if there's anything similar in any of these others that would allow me to use these as a guide for other machines. So I'm going to check that real quick because like I said, if I don't have to do new measurements, it's really kind of nice that way. But all I have to do is check my depth here, see what I've got for depth. So this was 2.6715. I think these are deeper. Yeah, it's deeper. That's deeper. That's shallower. More shallow. That's deeper. That's deep. Well, so once again, these are perfect for this one, but not for anything else. And a lot of it just depends on, it's more based on, just slight changes in depth and stuff when I'm milling these things. Let's do this one right here. I've got a lot of cherry stuff cut. Let me go grab a piece of cherry. Like I said, I already pre-cut all of these pieces. So here is a piece of cherry right here. You can see it's nice and long. I'm going to take this over because once again, you'll see that I have saw marks on the face. This is going to be the face that people see right here. This is the glue surface. This is the face. I want this to be cleaner than this, and I've definitely got these saw marks. Cherry, it just gets saw marks sometimes. But when it sits inside, what happens is I'm going to have those saw marks facing outwards, and I don't want that. That'll look ugly. So I'm going to take these over to the jointer and do the exact same thing we did with the last one. and just try to clean up those faces a little bit and make them look a little prettier and a little flatter. And yeah, let's do that right here. Oh, almost. Okie dokie. There we go. So now look how clean that is. That's nice and clean. You can definitely see the grain in here without all those burn marks. And that looks much better. All right. So got a lot of, hang on a second. Clean out the sawdust, which might make inaccurate measurements. And let's go ahead and do our same bit here. Let's find our tallest side, right? Because we want to know what side is the deepest. 2.7775, 775. 2.8045, nice. Make sure it's zeroed it is. Okay. I think that 8045 is going to be our winner. Yep. So 2.8045. I'm just checking it again just to make sure. Okay, 2.8055 is what we've got here. Let's go ahead and 2.8055 minus our 0.18, 2.6255. So a little more than 2.5 inches on these. This is fairly deep. 2.6255. So I'm going to go ahead and 2.6255. I'm going to say 625. It's easier than getting the 10,000th place. All right, so one thing I need to do is square up this corner. I haven't done that yet. So let's get this square, and we'll come back and do a measurement. But I want to make sure I'm starting with a nice square edge that I'm basing that measurement on. So we're just going to take off just a little bit off the edge here and make sure it's square. That should do it. And then we will we'll measure our 2.645. I think that's what we wanted here. Base ID already, I think 6225. So 2.6225. Yep. I'm going to put this up on here, and we will draw this onto the face. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one. Turn that off. And you'll notice some of these are larger, these triangles. I mean, they don't have to be the same exact size. This one, if you look at the size difference here, you can see plainly that this cherry one is a little bit larger than this one. If I put them side by side, I think you can see it that way. So you can see that this one, hopefully you can see that. This one right here is not nearly as wide as this one, as the cherry. as long as they're not super big and they don't interfere with the corners, it doesn't really matter too much in that respect. They're all approximately the same size, and it's based on the height, the thickness of the stock that I started with, is why those measurements might be a little different from one set of triangles to the next. All right, let's see if we can get this. Get that tooth here where I can line it up here. There, that looks perfect. Push this in a little bit here. Okay. So for expediency's sake, I cut 2. I'm pretty sure that my measurement's going to be good. And I went ahead and just cut 2 just to check it in the front with our machine here. If I'm happy with that, then we can cut the back too. Let's see what we got here. Okay, and all I'm checking for is that slide plate to make sure that I've got clearance, which I do. So I can take one of these, use it as my template, and let's go cut 2 more. And once again, this piece of cherry is super long in terms of what we need. So it should give us enough to make 2 bases worth of corners. And we have 2 bases, 2 cherry bases. I try to match the species of the wood, if at all possible. Not always possible, but I try. I will say that this is where kind of planning ahead before you actually get into milling your stuff up really pays benefits, because when I mill these boards down, like this board right here is 3/4 of an inch thick, which is fine for, you know, making the carcass, the basic construction of it. But that 3/4 of an inch thick is not thick enough for me to make triangles out of. Those triangles would be much too small for me to fit into the corners. So I have to go, before I mill these down to thickness, I need to make sure that I've got some boards that I leave thicker. They're milled down, but they're thicker. They're not taken all the way down to 3/4 of an inch, so that I have thick boards for making the triangles with. And if I've done it before, where I've gone through and just got really excited and milled all my wood down to 3/4 of an inch, and then it came for triangles for the corners, and I was basically out of luck, and I had to go and find a new piece of wood or go buy a new piece of wood so I had one thick enough to create these with. This is a board that was, I want to say, 1 inch or close to it. Yeah, this would be a 1 inch thick board that I made these out of. Obviously, if I've taken 3/4, you know, that's going to knock these down so that they're really super small triangles, and that will not be effective. So they have to be the right size, and that means, like I said, sometimes you need to plan ahead and have like a cut list so that you're not just milling things down without consideration of what the final objective is for all the pieces. Let's see what we got there. That looks pretty spiffy. I like that. What we got? Nice. Now, if we did this right, it should still work this way. And it's close. See, that's a little, they're a little shallower on this end. But like I said, the machine's made to go in this way. And with this side, it's a little taller, and that is perfect. So we're going to leave that the way it is, and we're just going to move on to the next one. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to grab the next cherry because I've already got the cherry wood out. So might as well cut the ones for this cherry, right? Since I've already got that piece of wood over there, no sense in moving on until we get all of these cut. So let's take some measurements here. Now this one was, what did we say this? Let's turn this on and check this measurement here. 2.68, I think, 2.8 something. So here, 2.78, 2.83, 2.78, 2.77. So one, for whatever reason, I always get one corner that's just not quite. Now what happens sometimes is as I'm gluing these bases in, if it doesn't get 100% glued to the bottom here, and I can notice there's a little bit of a gap right inside here at this bottom, at this floor. So if I didn't get that all the way pressed up inside there, that could account for just that little bit of deeper section right there. I try to use clamping cauls and everything else to get them pressed in all the way, but it's not perfect. So 2.833, go back to our ruler here. 833 minus 0.18. 2.653 is what we're shooting for here. So 2.653. Okay. And we'll go grab our little piece of board here. We're going to mark that on here. And we're going to make our first mark on this one. Right. Let's go cut this. And I'm going to cut two of them. We'll check the front. It's just easier if I cut two because I'm going to do it anyway. One doesn't really help me because it's hard to balance. Two lets me set it in there and balance it to check that height. So let's cut two of these at that distance. I have another piece of cherry triangle cut if I need it. So hopefully I won't. But let's see, I need to be on the outside of that pencil lead line. And come back and we'll check corners here. Make sure that this corner is cleaned out. There's a little bit of stuff in there. Looking for, here we go. Just want to make sure any scraps or anything are not in the corner. Yeah, there's a little tiny piece of something in there, but that will keep this from sitting flat against the bottom, which it needs to be. All right, let's check it and see. And once again, we are very happy with that measurement. Let's go cut two more. So this moves pretty quickly. You can see it's kind of, once you get in the groove, it's not that bad. It's just, you know, I think establishing that depth for the depth that we had for the actual thickness of the bottom bed of the machine, we established that 0.18, so we can subtract that from the thickness that we've got, or from the depth of the sidewall, and that should give us pretty much an accurate length for these things every time. I still check them because sometimes things are just screwy, but once you get that set, it's pretty easy to move forward like we're doing. Okay, and then like I said, you know, we've got an extra, if we need to cut an extra one for whatever reason, I've got a piece right here, more than long enough to cut an extra one if we need it. But for now, let's clean off the fuzzies and check this here. So we have, what do we got? Two oak bases that need corners. And then I have one walnut base that will also need a corner. And we have all of the triangular pieces of material cut for those. All right. Doesn't that look nice? That looks so nice. I like it. All right, so let's move to one of these oak ones over here. Ouch, my knee just popped. We're just gonna stack these over there. We're gonna move to this little oak one right here. Need to clean out. It's got lots of little new residents in here. This one's been sitting over to the side because I haven't done anything with this one in so long because it hasn't needed any side compartments. So it's just been kind of waiting for these corners. But let me get a piece of oak for this. And we're gonna clean up this piece of oak just like we did the last one. You can see, not too bad, but there are a few marks on here. So I'll bring it over here so you can see. So there are some marks on here. You also have those medullary rays on here, which are really cool. But I've got a little bit of a high spot right here from where I stopped sawing. I'm just gonna clean it up with a chisel so it's nice and flat. Now we're gonna take this over to the jointer. We're going to joint this face, and then we will cut these to length. And there should be enough here to make this work for both bases. I'm not looking to remove a lot of stock here. I'm just looking to clean those faces up, and you can see that's much cleaner now. Very clean faces. Kind of bright there. But the medullary rays, you can see those on here, and they look really cool. So you see those little diagonal lines? Those are medullary rays. They look awesome. I'm gonna just kind of smooth this edge. That's really sharp. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over really quickly, square up one edge so that we have a nice starting point to do our measuring from when we get the ruler on here. All right. Okie dokie dokie. Now we need to start measuring the bases here and figure out what our new measurement will be for this. Clean up that edge. Get those saw fuzzies off of there. Okay. So same process as we've been doing. Make sure this thing's zeroed out and just check, find my deepest one, 2 point, 824 775 76 79. So I'm going to say that 2.822. We're going to go with that. And 2.822 minus 0.18 for the thickness of the bed on the machine gives us 2.642. We will dial that in. Is our new length that we need. So 642. Come back. I saw you right there. Come on. There we go. Oh, stop it. There we go. 642. And then we will mark that up on here. Telling you what, man. Set of calipers, best money you can buy. Best tool for the money. 12 bucks. Harbor Freight. This thing is invaluable. I mean, especially for determining all those. I mean, can you imagine trying to get a ruler down in there and doing like, I'm trying to take this thing and getting those accurate measurements and such, trying to do it this way? No, I'm telling you, man, get one of these and don't get the one, there's one of these that does not have this tail piece. Don't get the one without the tail piece. You want the little tail piece because that allows you to do depth. And the depth stuff is critical for doing things like this. So much easier when you've got that. All right, let's get 2 of these cut. We'll check them on the machine base and make sure that they are good. Just gonna put this right where it needs to be. All right, make sure my fingers are not in the way. All right, we're going to come back over here and we're going to check this really quickly on this side. Clean all the fuzzies off. I got a lot of blade fuzz on oak just because of the way the fibers on this stuff are. So I'm going to make sure those are cleaned off just so they don't screw up any of my measurements here as I check this thing. Now, this, okay, so this has a logo, right? So there's a logo right here. Get in there so you can see that logo really nice. There you go, there's the logo. But that logo tells me that this is the front of the base. And if this is the front of the base, I need to make sure that I'm putting these in that corner so that we get the front of the machine over here and check it, because that's where we need to make sure that we're getting the right fit. And it appears that we are. So, close, but it's good. Now this base is actually a little tiny bit tight. And that's okay because I ease all these corners with a round over, and that will allow this to actually fit in here nicely. So I'm not really concerned about that. I do need to go take these over and cut 2 more. So let's go back over here and cut 2 more off of the stock for the other 2 pieces that we need. Okay, let's see what we've got here. I'm just going to clean off the fuzz. A lot of, like I said, a lot of fuzz on this oak. Not sure. It fuzzes more than most everything else. All right. Put all these in the corners here, and we'll just do a final check. This one. Okay. 4. Check here. Yeah. And like I said, we need to make sure the machine is in the right space. That should be good. There we go. So that's the machine sitting inside there. It's resting on the corners. My slide plate comes out, and that looks really good. So this is, like I said, this is just a simple base right here. It still has, the handles in the sides, so you can see there's little grips right there, and that just makes it easier to lift the whole thing when you've got a machine in there. This one has a little extra space on the edges here, but otherwise it's really good. It's a little tight of a fit, but when I ease those corners, I'm going to do a round over on this whole edge here. This thing will fit in here like a dream. So that's not a problem. All right, we still have our piece of oak over there, so we've got one more of these to cut. And we're going to blow some cobwebs out there. And let's check this one right here. Look for that high corner, or the deepest corner, I should say. And then we will cut accordingly. I don't think this one's as deep as that last one that we did. Yeah, this one's not, this one's a little bit more shallow. 2.56, 563, 565, 542, 5775. Okay, so this one has a little bit of a deeper corner here. So we're going to use that 5, especially since this is the front, we need to make sure we've got this depth here under control. So 5775. So we're going to go ahead and 0.5775 minus our 0.18, 2.3975. All right. Okay. I'm going to grab my stock over here. Pull that over. So 2.3975. Let's get that dialed in here. And then we will transfer that over to the board and make our first cut. That looks, come on. There we go. Perfect. All right, so we will put this up here. And let's go back over to the table and cut a couple. Or to the table, to the miter saw, not the table saw. We're at the miter saw. We're just going to cut right on the outside of the line of there. There we go, right there. Okay, let's do a quick check on these. After this, I've only got one more to cut, which is the walnut. So that should be pretty easy to do. And then we can actually, I can show you how I can glue these in. I've got a couple of clamping jigs that I use because you have to kind of allow for these side compartments when you're clamping these in. You can't just clamp straight across. You have to account for that extra thickness behind that corner. And so you kind of need to get creative, and that's what I did with a clamping jig. All right, let's see here. It looks nice. Why is this thing still running? Stop it. Okay. Just in here, checking this. Okay, I've got clearance there. So I do have clearance. So we will go ahead and proceed with the final two on this one. It's lined up. So I just always use a previous one. I line up the back edges, use my finger to make sure that they are perfectly lined up. Then I just slowly push it forward until this top piece right here touches the saw blade tooth. I don't want to push it into the flat part of the blade. I want to make sure it touches the tooth of the blade because that's what makes the cut. So I just push it right till it touches the tooth. I lower this down. I get that top piece out of the way. Then I clamp it in with my thumb. And now we're good to make a cut. That cut should always be the exact same size, which you can see this one is the exact same size as the one we used for measuring. And it's that way because, like I said, I get that one side really super flush, and then I just push it until it is touching the teeth. And that always gets me in the right spot. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, down, an extra piece right here. And we'll clean off the fuzzies. We'll do a test fit. And then we will move on to our last one, which is the walnut. Now this takes a while. Once I get these done, you're like, yeah, this takes a long time. It takes a while to get these glued in because I like to make sure that because this is what holds up the weight of the machine. And so I always like to make sure that I have a really, really good glue bond. The nice thing is when I glue these in, I'm gluing long grain to long grain, so there's no in-grain gluing. I know there's been a lot of stuff going around the internet right now about the strength of in-grain gluing, and it's just as good. It's like, well, is it? I don't know. But I like to give my glue joints a lot of time to set up so that I get what I think will be the best result. There we go. All right. So that is lined up perfectly. So I give them a lot of time in the clamps, hours and hours in the clamps, so that I can establish a really, really good glue joint. That's my theory. And I've been successful. I haven't had any glue joints fail. And so, you know what? Don't mess with success. Could I go less time? Probably. Am I going to? Nope, I am not. All right, here is a piece of walnut. Now, I only have one. No, I have two. But here's the crazy thing about this walnut. I'm actually going to take this over and joint this as well. But this was actually 2 pieces of wood. I did not have a piece of wood that was thick enough. So I actually glued a couple of pieces of wood together to make a piece large enough to get a triangular shape out of. So, I mean, you can see there's a seam right here. But you know what? That's okay. It's going on the inside. I just want it to be the same species, and I wanted to and it needed to be thick enough to support the machine. So two things. I'm going to run this across the joiner and clean off that face because I've got some saw marks on here. And then I'm going to go clean up one edge so that we have a nice squared off edge to the face. All right, I had one little mark I couldn't get out, so I had to do several passes, but that's okay. This thing is thick enough that I wasn't worried about removing too much stock. There's plenty of stock to spare on this one. It's quite wide. All right. And then these will fit inside here and create lovely little corners. Just trying to take these really sharp edges off of here, just so that they aren't gonna cut me. And like I said, I'm not really concerned about the back section right here because that is what gets glued into the base itself. So you'll never see this section of it. You're always gonna see this part right here. All right, I'm gonna take this over and cut this down real quick. Just give me a nice square face, and then we can figure out how tall these need to be. Okay, so we've got these cut down. Time to do some measurements on the base itself, just to figure out how much we need. So once again, we will zero this out and just go corner to corner, find that tallest corner. 2.7555, 7515, 7255, 7385. So I think this, yeah, 2.7, we'll call it 56. So that's my deepest corner right there. Let's plug some numbers in here. 2.756 minus 0.18. 2.576 is what we're going for. I wonder why this is not shutting down now. Kind of weird. My laptop, it used to go to sleep and I'd have to wake it up every now and then, but I am going to turn the brightness down because that saves power. So I don't lose complete power before the end of the stream, which is still a little bit of time left here. So 2.576. Oh, right there. Nicely done. Okay, let's get this measured onto here. Problem with walnut, it's hard to see pencil mark on walnut sometimes. All right, I'm gonna go run this over there, cut a couple of them, see what it looks like. You know the drill. We've been doing this now for a little bit. Same process. Right there. we have two. Now this is the front of the machine over here. This is for my buddy. You can't see. So this one right here is not one that I'm selling. This is for a friend of mine whose mother passed away, and it's for her machine. So this one is not for sale, but that's okay, because it needs to actually be as good or better than the ones I'm selling. And that is perfect right there. Very nice. I almost forgot. I looked and I was like, wait, this one's got a name on it? I was like, oh yeah, it's because I'm making it for her machine. So anyway, let's get these other two cut. That was a good fit. So let's go ahead and cut these other two real quick. I know I didn't change camera. Sorry about that. We're just going to cut these two down, and then then we'll get on to gluing, which, as you know, is so super exciting. That's why I always save it for last, because, you know, I like to build the suspense. You do know I'm joking, hopefully. Alrighty, these are a little oversized. They're a little thicker than I normally would use, but they will still work for this particular instance. I wouldn't want to get much bigger than this though. These look good. Put them in here. Very nice. All right, and we will set the machine in. That's awesome. So there you can see that's what we're dealing with. Looks pretty spectacular. All right. So all of the corners are now cut, and we can move on to, oh wait, I can take these off my head. So nice. Holy crud, getting it off my head. That feels so good. All right. So now we're going to just move on to glue up. And really what I need is a paper towel, because I need to wipe the glue off my fingers when I'm done spreading the glue. And I'm going to need some clamping assistance. So one thing I'm going to do is get 4 clamps. We'll just start with this one. I like these. These are just F clamps. They're Bessie, real simple, Bessie F clamps. I like them because they have a nice flat side right here. There's not a clamping point that is higher than this edge. This edge is all, so I can use this entire edge to put against a piece of wood and keep it flat, which I like that. These aren't real expensive. They're pretty economical as far as clamps go, because they're 6-inch clamps, so they're not super big. But what I do need are some clamping assistance tools. And I have a couple, I have cobwebs all over the place over here. Let's see, let's try these two, maybe this one. And then let's get these two right here. So I'm just grabbing a couple. I've got a box full of these things. I just kind of keep them handy. And I'll show you what I've got. So in order to do the clamping on here, one thing is, I used to do the corners before I would do the rounded edges. It doesn't really matter. But in order to keep pressure, so the way that you have to clamp these, because they're in the corner, you can't just clamp across it because it's diagonal, and your clamp will slide off of the piece. So you have to kind of clamp straight into the corner. In order to do that, I could do it this way, but you know, because this is rounded, or even if I haven't rounded it yet, if it's a nice sharp corner, getting a really nice solid clamp and keeping that pressure directly opposite of the corner here can sometimes be difficult. So I use a piece of wood that has a notch cut in it, like this, and then I take that notch, put it against the corner, and that gives me a square surface on the other side, a flat surface to clamp against. So we'll see how that works on this end. So what I'm going to do is get some glue, and I'm just going to check to make sure this is nice and clean inside there. The biggest thing I will tell you is to make sure when you clamp these things that they stay down, because sometimes when you tighten clamps, the glue has a tendency to be slippery and your piece will shift. So you'll have it glued in there and all of a sudden you apply pressure and your piece glides a little bit apart. And now when you're done, you come back and check it and you're like, oh my God, my piece is out of the, and it's too late. It's already glued in, the glue is set up, and then you're kind of hosed. So just make sure when you get that clamp in the final spot, oh golly. Oh, come on, glue bottle, what, really? Wow. Make sure that it's in position when you apply those clamps. This is crazy. I can't get the little top of my glue bottle to rise up. It's like glued in place here. What in the heck? Ugh. Really? Okay. I don't think I've had that happen before. I can't get the top to rise up out of the way. I think it just did. And sometimes the glue, usually my problem is I don't lower it and then the glue's dries in there and I can't do anything. But this is a little different. The glue is kind of set up inside here. So anyway, my problems. I just need to get this cleaned out so I can get the glue out of here. I just have more problems with glue bottles. And I use different glue bottles and stuff. Like I've got ones that I fill up and things. I don't know. I haven't found like the perfect glue bottle yet that seals itself and doesn't create issues. And it's a pain. It's a pain. Good grief. What is going on inside here? I can see through there. So I should be able to get glue out. I don't know. Well, you know, at least I know the glue works, right? All right, let's do one of these because I'm only going to do one. I'm only going to show you one because honestly, maybe two. Once you've seen it, it's not really worth watching me do it over and over and over again, which I will be doing. Plus, I don't have enough clamps to do too many of these. So I do them in pairs, usually 2, sometimes 3. All I do is put a little glue on the sides here. It doesn't need a lot. You don't want a ton because you don't want a lot of squeeze out. So I'm going to cover the surface and make sure that it's got a good skim coat of glue all over the edge. And you can kind of go really thin with the glue or almost none right at the edges because when it pushes in and squeezes, any glue in the middle here is going to force its way out. And so heavier in the middle section and then lighter towards the sides, and that gives the glue somewhere to go. And you're also not fighting a ton of squeeze out that way. And I take it, put it in the floor, and then push it square into the corner right there. And I still got a little squeeze out at the top. A little bit of squeeze out at the top there. You know what I don't have here? Oh, yeah, I do. There's a straw. I think I've shown you all the straw trick, but anyway, straws are really great because you can get the straw, you can force it down into a corner, and you can get all the squeeze out of there. So I'm going to get this glue out of here just because it's already squeezing out and I haven't even put a clamp on it yet. So no sense in even clamping that yet. Now I can get the clamp on here. So I'll get my little piece right here and go squeeze the clamp on here. Make sure I've got good clamping pressure across the face. Start tightening this down. And then, like I said, the one thing you want to watch is that it's not, as you're tightening, it's not pulling your piece of wood in an upward fashion away from the bottom. You don't want that to happen. You just want clamping pressure, pushing it down into that corner nice and firm so that when that glue sets up, all right, stop it. Stop it. Now, one thing that's happened here is that I made some adjustments to these bases a little while back, and they are not quite squared up to these corner pieces because I had to add a piece of wood in. And if you want to see what I did, you can go back and watch earlier live thing. I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to relive my horrors, but anyway, let me get this in here. Get it tight. There we go. All right, that is tight and it is also down. There is a little glue coming out the edge here. I'm going to clean it up now so I don't have to have glue squeeze out later, because glue squeeze out is really hard to clean up after the fact. If you catch it when it's still in its kind of gummy phase, you can use a chisel to remove it. But once it dries, the problem is it affects the wood fibers. So even if you take it off, you'll still have residual glue, and then your finish won't stick, and it's just a mess. So try to get that squeeze out early is my philosophy, and then you don't have to worry about it. Better yet, try not to have any squeeze out at all, which is why I go really, really gentle on the glue. But instead, we're gluing basically two surfaces together here. We've got a surface here and here. We're gluing, and we really want to make sure that we get a really nice bond, because this is what is supporting all the weight of the sewing machine, not the bottom, not the floor of the base. That's not supporting the weight. These corner supports are what will basically support all of the weight. And that is important because we need to make sure we're getting a really good glue bond going on there. Over a little bit. Hang on a second. I'm just going to readjust this clamp a little bit. There we go. Trying to get it as squared up as possible here to make sure that's all the way down. And then get really nice tight clamp on there. There we go. So I actually have more glue squeezing out here on this one. Kind of crazy. The glue does that over time. It kind of, works its way out as, it's feeling that pressure. It's kind of squeezing and squeezing. So just make sure you go back and check it so you're not missing any potential squeeze out that you could clean up early. At least that's the way I do it. All right, so that's the easy clamping. This was the clamping over here that actually creates the issue. So you've got this section right here where typically you want to clamp across to push that corner in. You've got the corner piece right here. You want to clamp across the face of that. But the problem is you've got a big flat surface here because of this addition on the side, right? We've got this storage base on the side here, this little compartment, and there's no place to put the clamp there. So what I've done is created these little L-shaped clamping block things here that allow me to put something here with a face that you can put the clamp onto and then squeeze that pressure into that corner while still holding tight on here. So that's what I've created these for. They got different notches because depending on the length of the base that I'm using, it might need to be, that clamp might need to be in a different location. So some of these are a little wonky looking, but they all work the same way, which is great. And they've been really super effective. So I'm going to clean these corners out. we're gonna put some glue on here, and let's put one of these on. But this is what I use on all of the ones that have these side compartments. On the square bases, like this one right here, I don't need that. I just use the little corner clamp pieces, and that's all I need. But on all these with the side compartments, I need to have these little L-shaped pieces in order to get those clamps really positioned properly and do their job. Let's get that little bit of glue there. And we're really just get a really good surface glue up. Because it does not take a lot of glue. You don't need to give this thing a bath. I see so many people put too much glue on, and you know, you're creating a glue joint that is just basically made up of glue, but not wood fibers. You're trying to get that wood fiber involved there. So you just want to skim that glue on there and create that bond between those two sets of wood fibers, not just a big glob of glue. All right, let's get this in the corner. That is nice like that. Okay. And you can hold these for a couple seconds. And I mean, it's not going to set up right away, but it will set up a little bit, just enough to keep it from sliding and moving around. So it's actually holding itself in place just through the minimal adhesion you get by holding it together for just a couple of seconds. I mean, I can remove this if I need to, if I want to get my fingers in here and kind of get a little bit of better grip. What I'm going to do is close this down. These are a little bit more challenging to do because the fact that you're working with some weird angles and such here. So let's see if I go this one, or is this my better angle? I've got multiple angles cut on here. I want to see which one gives me my best angle. I think this one right here, maybe. Let's see. This one's pretty good. All right, this is a good angle. I'm going to tighten this down. And there we go. And I'm just basically creating that pressure that pulls this corner into this triangle into the corner, and will hold it in place for that glue to set up. I don't need to, I don't need to squeeze it in there super, super tight. It just needs to hold pressure while the glue does its thing. Once that glue starts to set up and everything, we're in good shape. Honestly, within a half an hour, that glue has set up. So you couldn't peel them apart with your hands if you wanted to after a half an hour, probably after 15 minutes. You might be able to get a tool in there and pop them off, but after half an hour, it's pretty set up. And then basically I'm allowing for cure time. And to get that glue just to be its strongest, I let it cure for multiple hours. Do I need to? Probably not. Am I going to do it anyway? Absolutely. Because, like I said, haven't had one fail yet, so I'm not going to change the way I do stuff because I don't mess with success. Try not to. I don't know if this one's going to work for me. I don't think it's got the right angle on here. Well, let's look and see. Let's look and see if that's a good angle. Here, it kind of puts it off to the side here. I need to be over more. I can always add another notch in there if I need to. That's the other thing. I just take over to the bandsaw and cut another notch in it, and it works fine. This one actually has a higher notch. Let me see if this one's going to be okay. Oh, see, this is thick. So this one, yeah, that's good right there. Okay. Get this lined up, make sure my piece is not rising up out of the bottom. And I'm just going to hold this in place and tighten it down. So we've got pressure. And there you go. That is basically what my glue up process looks like. You can see we've got the L-shaped pieces right here. We've got the kind of squared with the little notches cut in them over on the corners. And it all does the job of pushing those corner blocks outward into the corners, letting that glue really have its best chance of setting up. And yeah, there you go. That's pretty nice. That's actually backwards on that lid. It was in this way. There we go. Yep, I can do one more. Let me do one more. I think what's the time here? 1:13. I have time for one more. So let me go ahead and set this aside very carefully. I try to get it out of the way. I set them on the floor usually and just leave them. I don't mess with them. Once they're in, they're in. Let me find some more setup blocks here, some clamping blocks that will work. I've made these out of, try to make them out of hardwood, just so that they're more durable. So I've got a lot of like scrap oak pieces and such that I've used for these. I've made them out of, I made the little L-shaped pieces out of plywood. That works too. This is ash, this is oak, oak. So there you go. I used some pretty tough wood to stand up to the abuse of being clamped. Let me grab 4 more clamps here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alrighty, so there's 4 more of those. I've got like 10 of those clamps, so they're pretty handy to have around. And we can just start with the corners here. Let's go ahead and get these in. No sense in fooling around here. Because the sooner I get them in and they start setting up, the sooner I can take them out of the clamps and get on to the next ones, because that's what I'll be doing over the rest of this afternoon, and then tomorrow is getting these all glued in. Doesn't take a long time. You can see once all the pieces are cut, it's not that hard. It's just glue time. And so I always try to make sure that I'm giving them enough glue time, but I have enough time to get all of them done. So I kind of have to split the workload up because I don't have enough clamps to do this all at once. That's really my big holdup is clamps, because you know, the old saying is no woodworker has enough clamps. Or I have too many clamps, said no woodworker ever. But I've got the corner pieces here. I've got these in. And so they're already set up and ready to go. Just grab a clamp and we'll just clamp these down. And just trying to get this squared up here. Looks good. And make sure that it's pressed down to the floor. One thing, like I said, you do not want these to sneak up on you, because they have done it to me in the past, and then you're kind of like, if it gets glued in and set up all the way down, you are just going to be in a bad way, because there's, yeah. So just make sure it doesn't slide up. Get it clamped down tight. Make sure you don't have any squeeze out to clean up. This one looks like it can get down a little bit more. I'm going to loosen this one and see if I can get this one to press down a little bit more here. It just seems like it's up just a hair. And see, I can't even, it's hard to get that out of the corner there, even though it's just been put in. So, yeah, the glue does a good job. That's why you want to check it early, so that you know that you're in good shape, because the longer you wait to readjust, the harder it's going to be to get it loose. All right, moving on to the hard corners. Let's get these done. So I'm just cleaning any dust out of that corner that would keep these from sitting flush against the floor of the base. Here's glue spreader. the finger. Works so well. Works so well. All right. Push this one into place. Kind of set it down in there. Get this one glued up. And then we'll come back with the clamps. So a lot of people are like, oh, you should be using, why aren't you using like something to hold those in that are more tough and will hold up over time? Honestly, if you do a good glue joint, I don't see it failing anytime in the near future. I've had these where they still hold up and they're nothing but glue. It's hide glue, which is really not the most, doesn't have the best longevity of glues, and they're still holding tight. So you do it right, you get a really good glue joint, and it will take care of itself over time. You shouldn't have too many issues. All right, let's get this clamp on here. Grab one of these and figure out what my best position is for this. Right here, kind of right there. Gonna move this down. These are a little bit more, like I said, these are a little trickier to get glued in just because of the position of the clamp on this little L-shaped thing. But this is the best thing I've come up with to make sure that it works. And it does do a good job. I mean, you can see that it's pulling, it wants to pull it this way, but it's got this L-shaped piece holding against the side. So this side right here is braced by this piece, so it allows it to get this contraction without pulling the piece down, and that's really the key behind this. And this was my own little invention, so I'm very proud of it. Sort of, it works. It's the nice thing about being a woodworker is you just sometimes you just come up with creative things to do problem solving. All right, let's try this one right here. Like I said, you're not trying to get vice type tightness here. You just want pressure holding it in, but you don't need to go super Godzilla, King Kong, making diamonds out of cold pressure. You just need them to be tight. And they are. So we're tight. We're good. What time is it? 1:20, about lunchtime. I've got 2 of these in clamps. Obviously, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more to go. And so I think this afternoon, well, I can probably get one more. I can get one more of these in clamps. I have enough clamps to do that. So I'll get one more of these in clamps after we go off stream and before I eat lunch. So that'll give me 3 of them in clamps. This afternoon, I'll come back. I'll take a couple of these out of clamps, do a couple more after they've been in the clamps for about 4 or 5 hours. That should be enough to get that done. And then tomorrow I'll come back and do the rest of them so that when you're back with me on Friday, if you come back here on Friday, they will all be done. We can take them out of the clamps, and really from there, we're in finish mode. So we're gonna do some finish sanding, we're gonna do some edge routing, we're gonna use my favorite finishing bit, which is the 1/8 inch roundover bit, and put a really nice soft roundover on these. We're going to use the new sander and sand these things down. Yeah, we're going to be really nearing completion on these things. This, like I said, this is the last big construction piece of these, is doing these corner bits. Once the corners are in, it's just all finishing work. It's sanding, roundovers, and then putting finish on it. So we're getting near the finish line, and it's very exciting to me. Let me set this out of the way, and we will sign off the, put this over here. Okay. And I've got those out of the way. I'm just gonna maybe do this small one right here. We'll do that after the fact. But anyway, thank you for, if you were here, and you've popped in, thanks for stopping in and spending a little of your time with me. I appreciate it. And I will be back here, like I said, on Friday. I'm here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 o'clock. And please pop in, say hi, leave a comment, suggestions, questions, whatever. I'm happy to get any and all input, and I will try to get back with you if need be. These are all saved on, I think you can go on Facebook and find them. Twitch saves them for like a week. YouTube, all of my live streams are on YouTube. So this is number 84. So there are 84 of these things living on YouTube. And if you go in there under YouTube/Jeff Revell and look, there is a playlist for live streams, and you can go back and look at all 84 of them if you want to. So that is what they make condemned prisoners do. I wouldn't suggest it for you. But anyway, it's all there. Plus, I said if you want to go back and look at my Rubo stuff, it's actually on my YouTube channel for how I made my Rubo table. And I hope you come back and join me on Friday. Until then, have yourself a great week. Enjoy the beautiful fall weather, if it's fall where you are. And I hope to see you back here on Friday. Otherwise, y'all have a great day. I'll see you soon. As soon as I find my button here. There it is. Bye-bye.